Okay, things are looking good. We're back to normal. It's Linux time. Let's do this. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, here we go. And AMD loses again. And it was not doing well power-wise, as you can see at the current moment. But it is what it is. There's no ray tracing for AMD on Linux, so we won't use ray tracing. Put ray tracing on. Almost getting the same amount of frames as AMD with ray tracing on. That's crazy. Wow. Okay, AMD loses. So our next test will be the one thing AMD actually probably wins at, and that's DXVK. Alright, Cyberpunk in Linux. The AMD GPU is glitching out. We might have to, might take me a minute to get this working. Or is it working? Let's see. Right now, the drivers for 6700M on Linux is a little glitchy because it's confusing the integrated graphics with the 6700M. So you get this issue like this. Hopefully we get lucky this time. And we do not. It's using the integrated graphics, which is what we don't want. All right, let's do another game for right now. I'll just run the AMD for now. You can go ahead and look at that. Alright, Horizon Zero Dawn using DXVK Vulkan on Linux. So let's go. RTX 3070 versus the 6700M. it looks like something is off with Nivida right now. I don't know what's going on there. Sorry about that. That's just not going as planned. Might be the HDMI port. That looks normal. Let's see what happens. Alright, give this another go. You're getting to see the problems of Linux firsthand. I love Linux, but wow, wow, wow. You can deal with some crazy stuff. All right. Well, let's hope and pray this starts working like it was. I had already tested everything out before I even did the live stream, so it's frustrating when this kind of stuff happens, but it is what it is. interesting is Horizon Zero Dawn is a problem, but I think that Cyberpunk's working just fine. Find out. But it's not working fine on AMD. Yeah, so things are going good there. With Cyberpunk on Nvidia. Horizon Zero Dawn's giving me problems. We're on max settings and we got about 42 FPS on Linux. It only pulls 80 watts on Linux, not the full 100 watt for the HP Omen 15. Good news, I think it's working now. I honestly don't know like what's triggering it working or not working, but here we go. Everything's working now. It's pulling more power on AMD, but it is running faster on Linux. So what do we got going on here? All right. Pretty similar FPS. AMD is just slightly winning, and it's pulling more power. It's pulling 30 more watts. So AMD, the 6700 amps pulling 30 more watts, and it is providing just a little bit more frames per second. All right, now we're going to adjust the settings. Particularly in Linux, there are some settings that are really good to turn off. Now we got a much better frame rate. And at 1080p, these settings are perfectly fine. This is really how you should be playing the game. I was just doing a stress test so you can see what happens when you push it to the extreme. I haven't figured out how to get FSR working on Linux, but apparently that's an option too, but might be hard to pull off at 1080p resolution. So now you can see at this point, AMD's got 10 more frames at this point, but it's also pulling 60 more or 30 more watts, so it's not as energy efficient. All right, I'll just kind of drive around and just push it to the kind of get a sense of what it's like in game when you're moving around. Runs solid. But it does seem to be an all-around better experience on AMD. Not by a whole lot though, it's starting to struggle a little bit as we move around. One thing I could try to do to help AMD and for both Windows and for Linux, I might take a look at this again, but that could have to do with how it's pulling power from the CPU. Given AMD's Smart Shift, I could be doing some impact to that, messing around with this stuff, but nonetheless. Oh, I probably need to I don't want to have to leave the game, but I might have to. Yeah, well, cross my fingers that I can get back in the game without the system getting all confused at what I'm about running the right GPU. Okay. So, lastly, and this is a tool that I really like using, Ryzen controller. And this is what really would help you control your temps. But it's doing fairly good on AMD. But let's take a look here. For Linux, you got to run this in the terminal. So you can do both set. Normally it's just best to set your temperature, and that just kind of gimps the CPU a little bit, but it's going to give you much better temperatures. But we are going to, if this thing, it's glitching out on me. let's even try to... I'm going to try to dial this down even more. It's really glitchy right now. I don't know if it's the screen capture or what. It must be the screen capture. I'm going to do the same thing for Nivida. So we're going to cap the CPU to 15 watts, temperature at 75 watts. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. That's too low because we don't want to GIMP the CPU. We just want to control the CPU. Because that's probably the issue with the power is, you know, if one's pushing more power out, then one's going to... Actually, no, I changed my mind. Because I remember in testing before, I saw it down to like 17 watts on one of these systems. So we're going to move this to 15 watts. I can't see this thing from... All right, we'll do that. Okay. We're good on Nvidia. Suppose see if that will boot up without an issue, hopefully. It's acting really weird on AMD. I don't understand why it's glitching so much. Okay. We should be good to go. Now I just have to hope this thing actually launches. Well, that did seem to lower the temperature or the wattage, but it's really only making a difference on Nvidia. Interesting. You know what? So we're getting a lot lower power on Nvidia once we did that. I think what's happening, so that definitely makes me think that the testing I did before was probably a little inaccurate because clearly the CPU is probably pulling different power levels when I was running the tests on the Windows tests. Because I was just in performance mode, just letting both systems do its thing. So it doesn't really give a perfect apples to apples to RDN2 versus Ampere. So I'm probably going to take a look at it again in the future, but I'm not sure when I'll get into that. For right now, we'll just finish up this Linux testing that we have going. Okay, so what I was saying about AMD, well, let's see how it's, that's interesting. Because a second ago there, it was running really fast on AMD, but it's gone back down. So I thought what maybe happened was when we limited the CPU, maybe it increased the power of the GPU. But based off what I'm seeing now, I wouldn't say that's the case. It's also kind of confusing. If you see on Mango HUD, if you can make that out, the GPU percentage is complete. It's talking about the integrated graphics on Mango HUD right now for the 6700M on Linux, which is not accurate to what we're using to get Cyberpunk running. So at least not the core of it. So still pulling more power on AMD. And we are same performance now. So we kind of lost some performance on AMD. Let's see if I can try to change this, but it's not. The game does not, or the game doesn't play nice with Windows mode on Linux. Well, yeah, using Ryzen Control definitely seemed to change things around. So I'll probably take a look at that in the future. But for right now, especially since I can't do much of anything, well, Do I dare lower it? This has also been really tedious and slow right now. All right, we'll see if we can get AMD going at 10 watt and see if that does anything. We're trying to help AMD as much as we can. Yeah, and so on Linux, there's just a lot of inconsistencies right now. The one thing that's nice about Linux and the Ryzen, well, the Ryzen controller has worked on Windows, but I've had issues where it just, the whole system will just get super slow after 30 minutes or so, where I have not had that issue on Linux. And the fans just seem to blow a bit quieter on Linux. So the frame rate is like jumped up just at the moment. Oops. Get myself out of that. What did I do? There. And no matter what I do for AMD, it's not doing them much favors in power-wise. Just seems to pull a lot more power no matter what you do. I think on Linux too, I can't check what the wattage is for both the CPU, I mean for the GPUs. But I believe that Nvidia is pulling I can only get to pull 80 watts on Linux, where I think AMD is pulling 110. And in spite of that, it's still not really providing much more performance. But we'll just exit out of this. All right, so I am done with testing both systems at the moment. That gives us a pretty thick look at Ampere and RDN2, and I mean, at the end of the day, you get a little. RDN2 does pretty good in Linux, but other than that, and really not even in Linux, it's just through DXVK. That's about it. Native Linux gaming, Nvidia seems to actually kind of be doing better. All right, one moment here. Testing. Well, let's see what happened there. That was okay. We're fine. All right, yeah, that's a look at the HBO 115 and the MSI Delta 15 RTX 3070 versus the 6700M. And for the most part, Nvidia won. Nvidia was more power efficient. It was providing, most of the time, it was providing more performance. AMD RDN2 seems to do pretty good in Linux at the moment with DXVK, except it keeps getting confused in terms of integrated graphics. And I've even had an issue with the Nvidia laptop with that, with getting DXVK to work. But it's one of the annoying things about these gaming laptops is that the 5800H comes with the integrated graphics, which the systems can sometimes get confused with, and so you'll have these problems. You not really know why it's happening, or eventually figure it out that it's the integrated graphics, but it kind of doesn't serve a purpose, because it's why are you getting this laptop to use integrated graphics? Like, you're getting it so you can play games on it, right? So it just doesn't really make any sense, but is what it is. I will go ahead and grab the laptop and take a closer look at it for the MSI Delta 15. Not the HP Omen, because a lot of people have already seen that one plenty of times, but not that people haven't. I mean, I did make a video for people to see this laptop before, but my lighting was really bad because I was just in a crappier spot, which I might have to film later today in that spot. But anyways, I'm gonna grab the camera. Okay, so this is the MSI Delta 15. There is a look at the system. I can pull this out like so. Had stickers on it, I removed them. I don't see the point in having stickers on something that I think it looks better without it, but even though you can see marks and stuff, but that's just my doing. And yeah. Look at the keyboard. Not sure if you can hear that. You probably hear my voice better than the overall typing. Trackpad. Right here you have the camera, which I would never use in the first place, but I guess I'm a camera snob. I guess I can show people screen wobble. That seems to be a big thing to people, but I don't care. I got the HP Omen 15 and I don't even understand what people are talking about. I think it feels a bit rigider than the Omen 15, but I can't exactly test it on both ends right now. But it's a smaller laptop than the Omen 15, and it's lighter. For the performance, I mean, how light this thing is, it's pretty crazy how light it is and compact. It almost feels like it's a 14-inch laptop, not a 15-inch laptop, but flip it over. It's got the fans, basically the CPU and the GPU on both left and right. It's got this opening here. You can take this apart. You can replace the RAM, the M.2s, but it's and the Wi-Fi card, but it's a pain in the ass because you literally have to open this up and then you'll see you're at the butt of the motherboard, and then you have to unscrew the motherboard, and then you have to pull the whole motherboard out, and you have to flip it over, and then you have to install the M.2. I'm going to make a video on that in the next day or so here, maybe even today, but I'm not sure. So yeah, that is a look at that. In terms of the ports, 1 second here. Try to improve the lighting. One second. All right, we got some more light there. There we go. So there we go. Testing. All right, so what we got over here. As you can see, we have the HDMI, USB-C with power, and I'm guessing that might mean display. I haven't really fully tested that or anything like that, but yeah, HDMI, USB-C, and a USB 3.2 which is good overall. There's no Ethernet, which is lame, but, and as you can see, you got, I like the cooling system because you have air getting blown out this way, and you got air blown out that way, and it's going to be the same on the other end over here. You got one here and one there. This thing's moving on me. Okay. But yeah, in terms of the cooling, you got the got it on both ends. It's a little bit smaller on that one. I don't know if that's the CPU or the GPU, but it's not it doesn't have as many vents as the other one. So you got the AC adapter, USB-C, USB 3, and a headphone jack. And that's it, basically. That's a look at it. In general, it has been very solid. One sec. All right. All right, yeah. So that's a look at the MSI Delta 15. Basically ran through all the benchmarks on both Windows and on Linux and comparing it to the RTX 3070. Nvidia seems to be kind of on top right now, but the 6700M just came out, so you know, drivers and everything could improve over time, and you know the way AMD is, fine wine, so things could change as things progress. But all in all, I still like the laptop a lot. One of the things, the reason why I have the HP Omen 15 and the reason why I got the MSI Delta 15 is because of the, you know, with a laptop, I think there's a lot of aspects that goes into like deciding if a laptop's good. It's not simply how high are the frame rates for games. These are two really small, sleek laptops. The Omen 15 is heavier. I think it's a little bit longer and bigger too. So the size of the MSI Delta 15 is definitely better. Power profiles are basically the same. 6700M just happens to be a slower graphics card from what I can tell as it stands in the majority of games that I've tested, where the RTX 3070 just appears to be faster. And the RTX 3070 seems to typically be faster than an RTX 3060, obviously, and which to me makes it worth the value. I got a great deal on the Omen 15 because I got it for $1,600, which is like a solid price for what that is. RTX 3070 with 8 gigs of VRAM. This one was overpriced in my opinion. It was 1800. Wait, no. Yeah. Yeah, it was, I think, I can't remember. I can't remember if it was 1700 or 1800 on Best Buy. But either way, I mean, it should be like cheaper than that. It should be like 1500 or something like that. But you get 10 gigs of VRAM, so that's nice, future-proof aspect-wise. And ultimately happy with both laptops. Performance per watt, you're not really going to get any better than this for gaming on PC, you know, without a complete loss in performance. And these laptops are already struggling with Cyberpunk 2077 and Linux, so the Steam Deck, I really don't know how it's going to fare, you know, when it's trying to play a game like that. A lot of it will depend on FSR. I haven't had a lot of luck getting FSR working, and I'm trying to get FSR working in a way that is, I guess, probably a little bit uncommon. Ideally, I want to do FSR with 1080p, where, you know, you drop it down to 720p, but you're still you're utilizing it in 1080p. But I've had no luck with that. I watched some tutorials from Glorious Egg Roll, but it wasn't really working. And when I changed to 720p, the screen would look blurry, and it just didn't look good, and performance didn't really improve. So that's just in my testing. I think a lot of it's been optimized for things like 1440p and 4K, which is not something I'm really interested in. I just care more about saving money and having like long-term performance. But I also care about form factor. I don't want to carry a graphics card around or anything like that. I think the benefit of portability is more important than resolution and stuff. And I think Steam Deck and Nintendo Switch is a perfect example of the truth of that. I mean, that's what most people want. Most people just are realizing, like, I don't need all this high resolution fluff puff that just gonna require more performance, right? I mean, if you're running at 1440p, running at 4K, you're gonna need more performance. That's just the way it is. So it's more exciting to be like, well, how about I don't run at higher resolutions and instead run at lower resolutions, and I run it on small devices, and now I can just play it anywhere I want to go. So, you know, it's just portable, it's more easier to use, less difficult, just kind of better all around, I guess. But yeah, that is a look at the MSI Delta 15. Again, it's kind of overpriced on Best Buy, but the overall quality laptop is good. It's annoying opening up the laptop and breaking it apart, which I will make another video on that. I'm going to replace the M.2s now with two 2 terabyte M.2s for both of them, so a total of 4 terabytes for the system, which is you can get, you know, 2 terabyte M.2s for like 200 or lower, which is a really good price compared to like when you go to 4 terabyte, 8 terabyte, the pricing is pretty ridiculous. So it's a good value for where it's at. And yeah, I mean, you know, some people think of, well, these laptops are expensive or something like that, but just depends on how you look at it. I sold off a lot of old technology and made money off of that. I had an RX 5700 and I made more than half the money that one of these laptops costs, you know, just by selling that one GPU. And that GPU performs, if anything, slower than these laptops, but about the same. But these laptops are portable. It just shows you the benefit of upgrading to these higher technologies. And now it's just a waiting game. I mean, there's nothing to get at this point. You know, I've got the best there is. for a laptop, and you're not going to see anything better than this that's worth upgrading to for at least like 2 years. So it's just a waiting game. That's why I don't really feel like there's much of a downside in getting the paying a little extra, getting the 6700M and the RTX 3070 and not skimping out for a 3060 or a 6600M or something like that. It makes more sense to kind of go for it and get something that is going to be the best that there is currently, and to just hang on that. Depends on how you look at it. Ultimately, ideally the best thing to do would be get a PS5 when it comes to gaming. That's the reality right now. An RTX 3090 would be a horrible idea for a person to get, because it's hard to explain, but I guarantee you, if you get an RTX 3090 and you have a PS5 and you look at the most high demanding game in 5 years, the PS5 is going to outperform the RTX 3090. It's just, consoles just age like fine wine, I guess, like AMD. They just age way better. None of these devices are going to compare to a PlayStation 5 in 5 years playing high-end graphics. It's just going to be the way it is. And you see things like when you're using Linux, you get gimped in performance. But I use Linux because free and open software, I think, is the way to go. It's the way everything should be. It would make everything better. Everyone should be using Vulkan, free open API. But the world is not a perfect place. But it is what it is. That will be something I talk about. Talk about Linux. Linux is awesome. I'm this close to just deleting Windows. This close. I think I might remove it off of all my laptops except for one or something, because I really don't need it for much of anything. I might leave it on the RTX 3070 because it seems like Nivida does really well on Windows. It's proprietary, just like Windows is proprietary, so it kind of makes sense. Whereas, AMD is a little bit more on the free and open source route at the moment, but we'll see what happens in the long run. But I'll make a quick video of me tearing down the laptop and putting the M.2 drives into the 6700M or the MSI Delta 15. So yeah, look out for that, and hope you guys enjoyed the live stream despite all the hiccups that I had. But a lot can go wrong when live streaming, but I think it went decent considering, all the variables. But yeah, and I'll likely be reposting these on my main channel now, DP27 The Light. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll probably start posting videos on that website. I'm on that channel, and be looking at a couple different things, because I'm also right now I'm cutting, doing some bodybuilding type stuff, because I like to do exercises and stuff like that. So, and also play with technology in games, but I'll get into all that different stuff. So for now, I have to go over here and make sure I click things off. This is DP27 The Light, and I will check you guys out